Full course yellow is deployed. Full course yellow is deployed.
Yes, Kimi Antonelli has broken through for a maiden Formula One victory at the Chinese Grand Prix as Mercedes continues its early season domination and the sport's new regulations continue to divide opinion. Max Verstappen didn't make the finish. Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri, they didn't even make the start. And while some are embracing what's being dubbed Formula One's uncanny valley era, Verstappen has a blunt message for you saying, you know nothing about racing. And you know what? I think I agree with him. We'll talk about that tonight on the program as well. What did you make of the Chinese Grand Prix? Also, the FIA's decision to leave the regulations unchanged for Japan at least. Meanwhile, down at Phillip Island, perfect conditions and a great field of classic race cars drew a massive crowd. A timely reminder that sometimes the old ways are still the best ways. And Doc was down at the island. Hopefully we'll catch up with him a little bit later on to talk about that firsthand. But we also had a bit of a look at it on the live streaming as well. Meanwhile, across at the Bend, the high-tech oil series got underway, but did anyone actually see it? Well, at least one person on the crew did. We'll find out more about that as well. Real-world racing versus the uncanny valley. Our thoughts, your thoughts, plenty more tonight here on Full Course Yellow. And joining me tonight on Full Course Yellow, let's have a look at the roll call. We've got Mark DNS Jones. He's had an electrical problem as well. And also we've got Peter as well. Peter Johnson joining us as well. Guys, welcome to the show.
Hello.
And first of all, well, let's start by saying congratulations to Kimi Antonelli. I mean, just a fabulous drive. Basically, pretty much led all the way. Had lost out a bit at the start, but basically led all the way for his maiden Formula One win, and it was a very, very popular win. He's a very popular boy. You look at some of the stuff with Kim Illman and seeing stuff with a lot of journalists and with other drivers and all that. He does seem to have that sort of Valentino Rossi quality about him, doesn't he? He just, people just seem to really, really taken to him.
And he's very natural, like at the end of the race, just showing that emotion. He's very natural.
He even looks like him a bit.
He does, yeah. He's got that Italian. It's the tousled hair and the smile and the he's as they say, sort of every girlfriend's dream, every boy's nightmare, sort of but he's just such he just comes across as such a nice guy, and you can see the genuine emotion there. Even George was like, I didn't, but I am genuinely happy, and you could tell he was happy, and Lewis was absolutely delighted. Lewis had sort of taken him under his wing as well, and also there was some footage of Max catching up with him as well. And Max, we know what sort of mood Max was in over that after the race and after he'd retired. But he was the same. He was just absolutely thrilled because they also play sort of sim races together. The interesting thing was, apparently Kimi was talking to Max and saying, "Oh, it's just so exciting about you racing at the Nürburgring and all the rest of it. I'd love to race. Wouldn't it be great perhaps one day we can race together at the Nürburgring and Le Mans and all that?" And he's going, whoa. You're just starting your career. Just concentrate on this now. But you can tell he's a fan. He's really keen.
There was I saw in one of the interviews in the lead-up races. I think it was Ted
Kravitz.
Ted Kravitz, yeah. Had a chat with Kimi on stop off on the way to, and they were talking about how he'd come up to when he was still around 14 or so. He'd caught up with Lando Norris at a Grand Prix and come up and shook his hand and said, "Hey, in 5 years, I'll be on track joining you. And can't wait to race with you." And sure enough, now he has, and now he's won a race as well.
It's great when that happens. I mean, you see the shots of sort of of Oscar Piastri, like as one of the the grid kids at the Australian Grand Prix and all the rest of it. I also loved it. I caught up with the thing that Oscar, that segment that they did with Oscar and Cam Waters out at Calder, and sort of Oscar's sort of saying like, oh, okay, I used to come here for the drags, I mean, Dad and I'd come out for the drag racing at Calder Park, it was like it was so cool. But you see those kids, they're so young, and it just shows you, and you see sort of the scope that you've got someone like Kimi Antonelli at one end, and then you've got Fernando Alonso and Lewis Hamilton up at the other end. I mean, it's a great broad spread of people, and in terms of their ages and all the rest of it. And I think just everybody. Probably apart from McLaren, I don't think anything was going to make McLaren smile after the weekend.
Oh yeah, no. I think there's some. Like I was really enjoying the race. We had McLaren and Ferrari going at it for third through. What? The sprint. Oh,
Yes.
sprint race.
To be honest with you, I had forgotten about this because I wasn't. The sprint race, because the sprint race was on so early, I'd forgotten all about it. I hadn't forgotten about it. I thought, I'll go out. I had stuff to do, and I called in at the gym, and I went to the gym, and I went to and I had a day out and all that, and came home. Thought, well, when I get home, I'll settle in and I'll watch the sprint race. And as I walked in, before I even thought about anything, I looked at the computer, and the results were up there, and it's like, oh hell, it's happened already. So I got thrown. So I didn't see the sprint race. Let's start with the sprint race, seeing you can bring me up to speed. I mean, I didn't think much of the Grand Prix itself. What was the sprint race like? Was that a better race?
Go Pete.
It sort of was, but it was kind of copy and paste for the Grand Prix and also for Australia, in the sense that Mercedes and Ferrari were battling it out. So yeah, it sort of was, and it was good. Like McLaren did score points, which was good, I guess.
Fourth and sixth it was in the end for Lando and Oscar. They were they spent much of the race fighting with the two papaya cars fighting with the two red cars for positions. So and while the two Mercedes, it wasn't the start was different, because we saw in the start of the Grand Prix, the Ferraris did what they're now doing. We're absolutely nailing the start, and Hamilton was just so sensational in that start in the Grand Prix, but they weren't as good in the sprint race, and we quickly had the two Mercedes out in front and away. But you then had this fascinating looking, for a while at least, Ferrari McLaren battle, and it was great. And I'm watching, I'm thinking, this is where the McLaren pace is going to be, that they can race with the Ferraris. We've seen that the Ferraris can start and match the Mercedes in the opening laps, but once we get 10, 15 laps into the race, the Mercedes have asserted themselves and Ferrari fall away. And we also see that not even Verstappen is then able to bridge the gap to the Ferrari. So potentially, we get this situation where we've got the two silver cars, then the two red cars, and then everyone else is fighting over fifth. But if we can get the McLarens into the race, starting the race, then the McLarens will be able to run with the Ferraris. And I think that's going to be really important from the next race, from Suzuka onwards, that we get the McLarens able to dice it up at the front. Otherwise, we could be set for a season of two silver cars, then two red cars, and then.
I think at the moment the main interest is going to be reliability. Who's going to start the race and who's going to finish it?
Well, certainly, the only thing that, sort of the bright side of the dark side of the McLaren situation is that, obviously they're Mercedes engines, Mercedes power units, and it seems to be a power unit issue that took both Lando, although apparently different power unit issues, that took both Lando and Oscar out of the race. So you could say, well, okay, if it's happening if it's happening to them, but to McLaren with the Mercedes power unit, could it happen to Mercedes with the Mercedes power unit?
Or Alpine.
George,
Or Alpine, yeah, so...
They
And
were all right.
how good is it to see Alpine that much further up the grid than
Yeah,
this time last year?
Pierre deserves it, doesn't he?
Yeah, I think
George,
well, I think that's the thing. And as you can see, we've got Craig Docklatago has joined us as well. So and before we go on there, let's check out a few of the regulars. Say hello to go through the roll call. Say hello to Eric. Good day, Eric. How are you? Good to see you join us again. Our regular friend Box is with us once again.
Hello, Triple B.
Good day to Box. Also to Jared. Should have tested for a year, run old cars for a seat. Yeah, well, I think part of this problem has been they just haven't had enough testing, and they just once again trying to save money. But anyway, that's we'll get onto that in a moment. HTP 510S, good day HTP. Nice to join you. I'll get back to Knackers in a moment. Jared, there's Jared saying that two McLaren, Red Bull and Aston issues not ready for 26. Yeah, we will get on to that as well. And also something from Paul Van Acker as well. Marcia Nelson, the wife of the late Peter Nelson, passed away as well, and in the run-up to Phillip Island on the weekend, and very much a Pyark stalwart. And also I saw a photo. Lynn, who unfortunately passed away just through there, one of the very much a stalwart of Pyark, and as I said, when she passed, I mean, Doc and I and pretty much anybody who had done anything down at Phillip Island over the last sort of 20 years or so had interactions with Lynn, and I saw a lovely photo, of them scattering some of her ashes at the track near the muster shed there. So very nice, very appropriate place for that to happen, and very good. Anyway, that's as I think Box is saying, teams must be looking forward to the two. It is a sort of an ill wind that blows somebody some good, because now they do have the opportunity of getting back to Europe and saying, okay, we can now reassess. Well, once Japan is finished, they can get back and what's that?
And I think that's when they'll tweak the rules. They'll have that 5-week period to tweak the rules.
You might be
I hope so.
wishful thinking there, but I think they'll be more concentrating on
what they should do,
as well as is actually fixing the problems first.
Well, that's if the problems are fixable, and the problem is at the moment with that, and it's like, and I agree with with what Max is saying. I mean, everyone's saying, oh, but all the passing was just totally
at the front.
Yeah, I push the button and I go past you, and then I run out of power, and then you push your button and you go past me. I mean, any one of us could have sat in a car and we could pass anybody. If we're within sort of a couple of car lengths, you're in front, I've got the over, I press and I go past you. And the only reason they say, oh, they're going too wide together. The only reason they're going too wide together is because they're going so bloody slow.
And after the first round of pit stops, generally, in the last two races, the passing dies off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we've seen by that point that Mercedes has asserted its pace advantage.
That's with any race, though. It's like any previous years. It always dies off because it becomes a procession. At least there's some passing going on.
That's what they said they were going to fix this year.
Well, they said they've been going to fix it for years and years and years. There's all these issues. You go on and bang on about all of them. It's something different at the moment, and it's challenging a lot more teams than they usually have about actually just optimising what they've got. I reckon it's great because they're all dealing with such an abomination of stuff that can go wrong, and it is going wrong, and it's creating some. And look, even Lewis and Charles said. Lewis is probably known to exaggerate sometimes, but said, that's the best bit of racing I've had in ever. You know what I mean? And Charles
and
on the
there'll
radio,
be team
he
orders.
says, I really enjoy when he's in the car, when Charles is in the car and he just finished absolutely going head-to-head like Jonesy said to me on a chat, said to me, that was absolute fun. I really enjoyed that.
Yes, but I reckon from Japan there'll be team orders.
Who cares?
Yeah,
there always is.
So,
Yeah, well, there always is, but I think it does.
Sir will say, you can't pass me.
Yeah, I just think it's there. And what gets me is when it comes up the worst is when they've got the in-car cameras, and you see them sort of going through, fast sweeping corners or at the end of long straights. They're diving. Like the whole idea is you go, to get to the end of a straight, long straight at say Monza or something. You've got a really strong braking area. You go as deep into the corner as you can, and you brake and get there. Now they're not going as deep into the corner as they can. As they're going across the line. They've got no power left, and suddenly they go from 1100, 1200 horsepower back to about 600 horsepower, and you can hear the cars just slowing right down as the generator kicks in and it slows, and you see the speed wash off. That's not the driver doing that. That's the automatic system doing that, and it's like I think it was Carlos Sainz who said, with the Mario Kart, he said it is like looking for the magic mushroom sort of thing. You're going around, if how far are we away from that? Like, if you go around, if you hit a particular spot, you reach up and grab a tag or something on the way through, you'll get an extra 80 horsepower for 24 seconds or something.
It actually reminds me a little bit of like the first Fast and the Furious film, where they were constantly talking about, when do we kick the nitro in? On the cars.
It does seem a little bit the drivers that are going well are not complaining and saying it's fantastic, and the ones that are going bad are just whinging as usual. There is a bit of that.
And that happens every season in every category, regardless of whether it's new regs or not.
It's like Ferrari say they've mastered the start, and yes, the start was cleaner in Japan, in China than it was in Australia, but I still think, and I don't agree with Jacques Villeneuve, who said it's not a safety issue. It is, because
I think it's a safety. I think it's inevitable that at some stage we are going to see
they need to tweak
a big crash. We did see
the way the Ferraris pull this off is mechanical. Like they're using a single turbo while everyone else uses the twin turbo, and that gives them that extra kick off the line.
Smaller too, I think, Jonesy. Smaller.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
It spools up quicker, and so they get they get the power down quicker. They get the power away, but then again, they're not putting out quite. Their ICE engine isn't putting out as much, quite as much top end power.
And it'll be less drivable too. Like there'll be peaks and troughs in your power curves. But what are they going to do to fix that? Are they going to make it compulsory that they've got to run a twin turbo setup? And if then, what then happens to Ferrari? They've got to build a whole new engine.
I don't know, but it is a safety issue, because if someone runs up the back of someone, they're either going to injure them badly or kill them.
Yeah, I think that's the worry. There were a couple of really close near misses at Melbourne, and I think it's only a matter of time. You're going to have somebody on a really long straight at a place like Spa or Monza or Silverstone or something, where somebody is going to be on the tail of somebody, and suddenly the battery's going to die, and they're just going to pretty much stop, and somebody's not going to react in time. Someone's going to pull out. Someone's going to go straight into the back of it, and we've got serious. And by the way, Ben, you are right.
The down below there, Ben, I was there for the 4 days, like Pete was. I didn't probably get to see as much as Pete, but awesome racing, lots of fun. I've been watching it bits and pieces at home, but I totally agree. Sorry I missed you down at Phillip Island. I know you were down there on the weekend. Great. I just want to talk about some positives of F1 rather than all the fanfare that's going on. Put aside all the rubbish that's going on for a second. How good is Ollie Behrman driving at the moment? And he just seems to have just rising like a beautiful souffle at the moment with the Ferrari engine in the back and the Haas going real. And the other one I want to probably mention as well too is not as obviously I mentioned before Alpine's going well, but even the Racing Bulls with a reliable Ford half full Red Bull in the back. Liam seems to be grabbing it with all straws, and Lindbad slowly just getting a hold of things like any rookie does. They have crashes, they make mistakes. Nothing unnormal about that.
And Max has a challenger, I think, in Isaac. When the car's running,
Yeah, he's certainly he certainly seems to be way more competitive and way more of a challenge than anybody that he's had for basically since Daniel, I suppose. So yeah, I think that he looks like he's definitely a good find.
I meant before when I said the rules will probably be tweaked in that 5-week period. It's more the technical things. Like even in China, they were still getting power boosts that was pitching them, spinning them around, and luckily there were no walls there to hit.
Yeah,
So I think it's that
imagine
sort of thing.
imagine what that might be like at Monaco. I mean, sort of going into the tunnel and absolutely.
So I think they'll use that time to tweak that sort of thing.
Yeah,
And they should tweak. They should bring the committee that decides about the compression ratio forward and use that time to bring that adjustment in as well.
You mean the August committee?
Whatever it is, I don't know.
It's August when it's going to finally raise its head. So, I mean, I'm sure they've got absolute specialists on the world working all this.
I heard
it was
June
what they can tweak. I reckon we'll leave it to them to be able to make the decisions that they need because they're probably in touch with the sport.
But they should bring it forward if they've got unanimous agreement with the teams.
Well, they're not going to get unanimous agreement.
They have.
No.
They have.
Well, Mercedes had said consistently no all along, and because they're the ones that are going to be the
fair
most
enough
affected.
too. They've put the hard yards in, right, Jonesy? I agree. If they put the hard yards in, they should veto it.
I've heard that they have, and
I think they did eventually. I think it got to the stage where, they did say. I read something too, Pete, along the lines of Mercedes reluctantly said, "Look, in order we don't want to start a civil war with this. We'll go along with it because we're confident that whatever the rules are, we can sort of deal."
And then it goes to some committee which meets in June. Why not bring that forward to that 5-week break, and then sort it out then?
Because it's probably going to take more than that to make the changes.
They've got to follow their processes. There's rules, there's regulations, there's got to be investigations, there's got to be reports done. There's got to be like that. It's just like my job when I go to work tomorrow, or when Brett files another report for his pension or whatever it may be. If it says it's 10 weeks, it says it's 10 weeks. You can't usually change it.
Yeah, and I think we've said in the past when we're not all that keen on sort of mid-season major rule change. I think it's an implementation thing. It's like Jared said before about where you implement it. I think the problem is that the difference between having the battery boost and having nothing is too much. I mean, you go from having 680, 750 horsepower, however much 800, whatever horsepower it is from coming out of the internal combustion engine, to suddenly having now another basically 50% of your power. So you've got equal power, but it only lasts for a matter of seconds. Like it's not like it's a case where you can turn on and say, well, okay, I've got 1 lap worth of energy, a bit like they do in the World Endurance Championship, where you have a finite amount of energy and you've got to decide over the course of that stint how you use it. So there is some strategy there. You can't just, if you're sitting behind someone and say, oh, I can push the button and just go past them. It's like, yeah, I could do that, but that kills me for the rest of the race. That's I want the rest of this stint until I go into the pits and refuel. I've lost that. So I can't. The driver and the team have got to make a decision. At what point do you use that finite amount of energy and say, do you say, okay, so and so, the guy behind you is trying to undercut you, has gone to the pits. We need your boost now, and you need to put in like a qualifying, and you've got a whole lap where you've got all that power, and you can go around there, and it doesn't have to be, 600-700 horsepower or whatever it is. Make it like 300 horsepower, 250, whatever's going to get you around for a lap without sort of having to go and regenerate, because that's the problem with it. It's you've got it, and then you've immediately got to. You have a look at the graphic for the battery, and I mean it goes from like, he's got 80% battery to suddenly got no
60.
battery at all.
Yeah.
Goes like that,
Yeah.
and then it's like, he's got no battery left, and then suddenly comes out of it, goes into a corner, and it's up to 60. Oh, he's got 60%. Oh, it's gone again. By the way, could I just say to the commentators, for Christ's sake, shut up about megajoules and harvesting and super clipping and all that. We're not interested in it. It's boring. If you sat there and if you had a drinking game for every time they said megajoules or super clipping or harvesting or something like that,
I'd be legless.
Yeah, well, exactly. Well, yeah, even more legless. That's,
you don't want you want the battery still left on the screen next to each driver?
Yeah, but it shouldn't be. This is the problem. It's now so important. It's now more important than the drivers. It's like, this is the important thing. Oh my God, how much battery has he got? How much battery? Oh, he's got no battery. Oh, it's okay. It's not going to be a pass this one. Oh, he's got battery. You just look at the battery to see how much power they've got, and they're talking about it all the time.
They're getting excited with themselves with all the new technology.
It's becoming more and more made for television. Like, even being there, you can't visibly see when the wings are moving. You can't see when they're harvesting, or you can with the lights, but you can't see when they're using straight mode or any other mode, really.
You know what we're heading towards is we're going to have like a live version of Drive to Survive, like that happens every other week, and the fan votes compiled during that episode of Drive to Survive then determines how much battery they have in the Grand Prix.
Which they already do in Formula E. There's a fan vote. There is a fan vote in Formula E, and whoever gets the fan vote gets a certain amount of extra power for a lap or half a lap or whatever it is, and it's like, our most popular driver of the day, and in which case, Franco Colapinto is probably going to get, or if they get an Indian driver or something, it's like going to be sort of, every single,
Well, I did subscribe to the F1 Fantasy for the first time this year, so there you go. Giving it a go to see what it's like.
It is a fantasy. Incidentally, good day to Mad Cow Mark joining us again. I hope you've had a great break. Thank you.
That reminds me, the point that Ben Wilson brought up earlier about F2 and F3 being great races. F1 Academy kicked off in China as well for their season 2020. It was some really good racing, and it was surprising in some respects that a lot of people expected Alba Larsen, who was.
So where was it, Jonesy? Where was it?
In China.
At China too.
Supporting the Grand Prix.
Sport race.
A lot expected the things of Alba Larsen, who was bridesmaid last year to Dorian and Parn, to kick off quite strongly, and in the end, actually, she had dramas in both races and finished down the field. We had Nina Gateman step up to win the second race, and then third generation racer Emma Felbermeyer, daughter of Horst and granddaughter of Horst Senior, getting up for her first win in the feature race on Sunday, and we had and that was actually a really good race, the Sunday race, battle with Felbermeyer, Pawlowski, and the other drivers at the pointy end of that field. So we had some good racing in the Academy last year, but this year is actually maybe looking like it could be a bit better. And of course, the Felbermeyer is the Audi supported driver in the field, so Audi got their first win on a Grand Prix weekend.
Oh right, well that's
the issue I have with it. It's good racing and everything, but the ladder stops at F1 Academy at the moment. No one seems to get a drive.
What's Dorian Pan doing now?
Dorian was a GT racer before F1 Academy. Like, she was one of the Iron Dames. Before she got into F1 Academy, and although Iron Dames no longer exists, of course, but I am going to have to look it up.
Because that's the point. I mean,
It does have
she came out of GT cars and she's gone into F1 Academy, and now if she goes back into GT cars, great. But that's not what F1 Academy, by the very name, F1 Academy is to try and get a young girl into Formula One, and
based on skill.
So she needs to.
Well, she's part of the test driver lineup for Mercedes, so she'll be doing some development work with them.
Yeah, and that's a road to nowhere, as we see. Like, oh, yeah, so and so's, and we got like the sons of rich fathers, sort of who become like the test drivers. Well, they go in there and they do their basically glorified video game stuff. I mean, I know it's important to do the simulator stuff and all the rest of it, and they go and do perhaps a few promotional days and all that. But I mean, right now.
She's been signed to Duquesne to race LMP2s in European Le Mans.
Which is fantastic, and we look forward to it because there's a few young women in there doing very well at the moment. But the point is, it's Formula One Academy, and racing LMP2 in the ELMS is not going to get you into Formula One.
No, it's not.
So what is the point of having it there? So it's like someone saying, I'm going to go to Australia and race supercars because that'll get me into Formula One.
A team's going to take these girls in the F3 and see how they go. They either make or break it then.
Well, that's what they've got to do. They've got to say...
A team does. It's a team.
But that's what they've got to do. They've got to say, okay, if you win the Formula One Academy, you are guaranteed a year in an F3 drive for the year.
Got to be that, yeah.
At least, if not 2 years, because it's not something that's going to happen overnight. So, I'd be saying 2 years in Formula 3, regardless. So you've got a year to learn the cars, bring your skills up. But it's a long-term thing. It has to be like, okay, this is an apprenticeship. You've won the right for the apprenticeship. We're going to put you on the books for 5 years. And if at the end of 5 years you're not in Formula One, you'll still be a much better. But that's the road. If they really want to get a young woman into Formula One, it's not going to happen like, in the matter. It's not going to be like, Oscar Piastri or Lando.
The other categories need to get on board. The other Formula categories need to get on board.
And perhaps, God forbid, but you talk about things like quotas and all the rest of it. Perhaps at some stage they've got to say, okay, to all the junior teams, you need to make a spot available on your team for the winner of for the Audi. Let's say Feldmeier wins it this year and says, okay, she's an Audi driver. Audi, you need to put her through Formula 3, Formula 2, and then at the end of her second year in Formula 2, after say 4 years, a couple of years in Formula 3, a couple of years in Formula 2. If she's not up to scratch, if she's not up to standard to get into Formula One, okay, it's like thank you and goodbye, and you've had that journey and whatever, and you bring through the next person. But just at the moment, they just sort of win the prize and go, yay, I won the prize, Formula One Academy, yay, on the way to Formula One. None of them are even remotely close to Formula One.
Jamie Chadwick, who dominated the old W Series, which preceded F1 Academy, she won that series 3 years running, and they ran Formula Regional, which was a more competitive, which was a faster car than Formula 4, like the equivalent, I guess, of Formula 3.5, and the category formerly known as Formula 3. But even then, as good as Chadwick is, she was not able to make that next step. She's had some GT racing. She's in LMP2 now. She had a season, I think, in Indy Next or the Indy Lights. I can't remember which.
Yeah, she did have. Yeah, she did have. She did do some IndyCar stuff,
and I think that was with Andretti as well. So that was a serious effort, but in the end, it didn't translate for her, and she wasn't able to kick on. And now she seems to be doing. She's got a. Oh well, she's actually a part of the
Genesis.
Yeah, the Hyundai WEC as their reserve driver, development driver.
Yeah, which surprised me actually because she's done really well in in LMP too. I mean, she's been on the podium and she's actually won a race. Like obviously it's with, but I would have thought just for the marketing as much as anything that they could have. That they could have done something, something with it, like and got her into a car, like got her into the main car with Genesis. Obviously, they've got limited resources, and they want to get sort of the best people in their first year and all the rest of it. But it would have been good to sort of say yes, and here's our three main drive, and but here's but Jamie's got a thing as well. Also, I think that as Paul's saying that Chadwick does a really good job on the Sky. Yeah, I'd agree with that. I think she has done a really good job.
Yeah, she's effectively replaced Danica Patrick in that role.
Yeah, and she does come across as knowing her stuff. She does come across very natural on television. I think she's done a really really good job.
If they introduce quotas in Formula One, I might get a drive.
Who knows, Pete? I mean, well, we know. I mean, perhaps you and Robert Wickens could jump in and.
Hey, I mean, he's on the Hyundai program, isn't he, Rob?
Rob's on the.
He's got so there's the potential there for some manufacturer backing there, Pete.
I don't think I could get out of the car within 10 seconds. I don't know if they still have that rule.
They certainly do have that. They certainly do have that rule, because that would be one of the things that would stop me as well. I mean,
well, you and Wayne Rainey could get together, Pete, and get something together. You know what I mean? Maybe it's a.
Yeah, well, I mean, there are certainly plenty of people in chairs who do and have raced. I mean, there's quite a few regular drivers who, and now, I mean, the technology's getting better now. I mean, if you have a look at the stuff that Hyundai and have developed in TCR for, and then now Rob's also, he's running has run the Corvette as well, and with Bosch they work together to try and come up with some better hand controls for people like Rob, and also Billy Munger and a few other people, and obviously, I mean,
you remember there was that guy did NLS? No, not NLS. European Le Mans Series in LMP2.
Yeah, well, they had that. They had the Garage 50. Yeah, and they had the Garage 56 entry.
Yes, yeah.
There a few years ago, and they did like a really good job too. I mean, everybody was like, "Oh, isn't it just very noble?" and all the rest of it, and it's good. And they'll be sort of like way off the pace, obviously. And let's hope they don't get in anybody's road. Well, it turns out that they were pretty bloody competitive, and they had everything sort of they worked out sort of ways. Because obviously the drivers involved there were like mega fit athletes, and it was like when, and in fact somebody said to one of the guys, about getting out of his car crashes and catch, like how are you going to get out of the car? And he said, if the car crashes and catches bloody fire, he said, trust me, I'm getting out of the fucking car. Yeah, Jared's saying that we need, but by high rev, fixed aero and all that. Yeah, we could call it S5000. That could be fun.
That sounds familiar.
Yeah.
Oh, let's not go there. Oh.
But,
very big can of worms.
That is a big can of worms. Hey, actually, we've probably spoken enough. I mean, we've got a bit of a break now, and then sort of the week after next, we head to Japan, and we'll see what the
MotoGP is in between.
So we got Brazil, aren't they?
Brazil, Portimao this weekend. So there's nothing really much. Portimao, not much to really.
No, Portimao's not in Brazil. Portimao's in Portugal.
Oh, Portugal. Sorry, World Superbikes are in Portimao. Sorry, my apologies. World Superbikes. Johnny Ray is doing a guest appearance, coming back after retiring last season. Johnny,
we love you, Johnny, but.
No, he's only coming in. No, the Honda rider's out for the week, so he's just covering.
Yeah.
He's just covering. It's nothing crazy. Let's not get excited. It's not like Danny Pedrosa two or three bloody game series. It's just a one-off replacement while there's an injury, so no big deal there. No, but anyway, yeah, he went off in dazzling form last year. And yeah, that's what I said. MotoGP, nothing really to report. The other bit of Rossi news. I don't know why. They're really scraping the bottom of the barrel for stuff to post up online. But they asked Valentino Rossi. Must have asked him, why did you ever get arm pump? And he goes, well, it's probably genetics. So he gave a straightforward answer. And as Brett knows, like myself, Valet's just a straight-talking, hell of a nice guy and genuine as well too. And they must be really low on news. So nothing much to report on MotoGP, but it is in between the next F1 races.
I have to say, as Jared's saying, Super Formula in Japan, in terms of if you want sort of, and they do have a sort of a hybrid push to pass.
When is the next one for that?
Well,
they haven't started.
Yeah,
Japan starts late because
when's it?
Because they have this thing in Japan called snow.
Yeah, especially
really.
At Fuji.
Yeah.
I heard they've got better. I've heard for years, and I've seen all these videos for it. They've got better snow and peaks and runs than what we've got in Australia. It must be true.
Oh yes, I mean I know I do know somebody who is like a full on snowing skiing tragic, and every year
I know
absolutely every year he just without fail goes to Japan, just says best snow, best facilities, best there. The unlikely thing is somebody who's made an absolute fortune out of snow in Japan is unlikely is a guy by the name, and Doc will, and perhaps even Mark might even remember and know this name, but an Australian guy by the name of Dirk Nannis.
Oh yes, absolutely. How's that? Just before you do though, run on to that one. I do know a couple of instructors that work up at Falls Creek and Buller and Hotham and they go across for Japan as well too. So
they may well be working for Dirk.
Dirk was what state was he? Was he South Australian or New South?
No, he was Victorian. Victorian boy. Dirk.
Dirk was a Vic one. How did he get up in the snow?
Well, chances are your mates who are working sort of as instructors up there are probably working for Dirk. He's just basically made a fort. He's a mad skiing enthusiast, and that's what he would do. He would play cricket in the summer, and he would go skiing in the winter. And he's apparently turned that into a very successful. Very successful.
Did he buy a resort or something? Did he?
I don't think he bought a resort. I think it's got something to do with training and teaching and teaching people at resorts as being sort
Good
of
stuff.
So he's done extremely well out of the snow scene in Japan.
No wonder we don't see too much over here then.
Just by the way, I looked it up. Super Formula starts first week of April. Super GT second week of April.
That's the way they normally run it. It's a bit like what's happening here now with supercars and the Shannon series, the Speed series, is they tend to run sort of 1 week, 1 week's super Formula, 1 week Super GT, and all that. So they run that. But the Super GT stuff, if you get the chance to watch it, it's it's very good, because essentially what they are is that they're sort of I suppose like glorified Formula 2 cars, but with Super GT engines, sort of pumping out around sort of around 750 to 800 horsepower or something.
Bit more aero.
The factory-supported sports sedans, almost really. The
Super GTs, Well, that's and the level of professionalism. I was fortunate enough to go watch a round of Super GT when they visited Malaysia a few years back, and had media accreditation there. So I got to go into the garages, and the attention to detail. It is just like Formula One. You'd go around and you see little indentations in body panels and go, what is that? And then someone went, that breaks up and that creates that eddy in that direction, and that one creates
vortex goes that way,
the vortex, and that brings the air around, and you can't see it looking at it. You just sort of look at it and go, and you feel it. You say, there's a texture.
And that's what creates Cyclone Narelle that's up the top of Northern Territory now.
It's incredible, the amount of professionalism. Unfortunately, at one stage, of course, they were going to mix. They had them sort of mixing with the DTM cars, and that was the original plan. And now the original plan was, and this is something that I found out at the. Didn't get a lot of publicity here because no one in the Australian media wanted to talk about it. But the original plan is when DTM and Super GT got together to have sort of composite rules to make sure they could to try and encourage swapping between the two series. The next thing was one they did in the first meeting, and this was the president of the GT Foundation, GT Association in Japan told me this direct was, we approached the Australian supercar people and said, why don't we all work together and create this sort of this mega.
I remember it.
We know where you're going there.
Yeah, and it was like what a way, that's never going to work, and da 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 da. And he said they just were not even remotely interested. Yeah, I mean Subaru were very keen. We spoke to a guy from Subaru at the Sydney Motor Show many years ago because they had a Super GT Subaru on display on the stands, and he said it'll be somewhere on the YouTube channel. Where he said, we are ready to, we have no interest in supercars at all. He said, I'll tell you now, he said, if they did come together, he said, we got 2 cars waiting, we got 2 cars in a budget ready to go.
Before you run away from that, Brett, the motor show is coming up again, the one we attended last year. It's in April, not very far away. I have friends already that have purchased tickets because they are online. And the other thing is, Brett and I were pretty chatty with the CEO, and they were very friendly with us, and they offered a lot to look at. And there's 2 or 3 more high-profile exhibitors have jumped on, like they said they probably would get this year.
Unfortunately, they have lost a couple as well. That was because that was the thing that I saw that was like, oh, this is good. I mean, because they said, as you say, like when we did the interview last year, they said we've had interest from the following companies, and those companies have jumped on board. But some of the companies that were there last year are now no longer there. Also, they've changed it a lot. I think this is a good idea to try and broaden the expand. They're going to have a lot more sort of, I'll call it the Motorex, Summer Nats sort of thing. They're going to have like custom cars and hot rods and all that sort of thing, and race cars as well, sort of. So it's going to be a much broader.
Check out their social media and you'll get a better idea of it.
So it's so it'll probably be worth going. I've already I haven't heard from them yet. I've already sent them
that's good. Yeah,
an email saying like, hey guys, we want to do
like a few gourmet chips and a Perrier water or something like that. We were shouted at the top of the pedestal last year. So
yeah, they have a bit of work to do, but I mean it's good to see that they did that again. Also coming up, something that we've done for many years before anybody else, and that is the Australian Auto Aftermarket Expo is coming back again. And that's only in a few weeks' time. And I don't think I've got in touch with them yet, but I'll certainly if there's a chance of going and doing that again, we will do it, because that's probably as close as we've got to a SEMA or a PRI show in Australia.
And we actually have a lot of fun there, Brett. A bit more than because curiosity kills our cats. And we get around and we sort of inquire and look at this and point at that and ask about this, and we usually get some interesting responses.
Yeah. Okay, let's talk about now. Obviously, supercars have as soon as they'd finished at Albert Park, they packed everything up and they're heading over to New Zealand, not for one race but for 2 races. So this is going to be interesting, and they're obviously looking forward to it. Not a lot of talk, although today it was interesting the fact that Tickford have sort of come out, and this is once again the weakness of this finals system, is Tickford basically said in an interview with Speed Cafe, hey, listen, we ran last year like we would run any other city, and we just went hell for leather, get off to a good start, got some points, and this year it's like all we wanted. We're just going to get there. We're targeting the end of the year, and the points is we're targeting Bathurst, we're targeting the finals races. That's what we're targeting now. We just want to make so we're just playing to get into the finals sort of thing. We're not going crazy and saying, oh boy, we're in front of the, because that ultimately doesn't mean anything.
And I read something over over our holidays where Walkinshaw basically did that. They
Well,
basically
that's, yeah.
ran Eastern Sydney Motorsport Park as a test session because apparently the corners are very similar to most of the tracks that they go to. So they set the cars up to do to
Yeah,
to
and
work.
that's what they said. That's what Tickford specifically said. They said
Yeah.
we've learned from Walkinshaw with what Walkinshaw did, and you saw ultimately what happened. I mean, everyone went, "Wow, what the hell? Where did they come from all of a
I
sudden?"
mean, I think Bathurst was an anomaly in their uh, strategy, but after beyond that, it's what they plan to do.
Also, just on the culture thing, I didn't know Cletus McFarlane was you. I knew that Andy Lopez and the Summer Nats guys were in America running it. Interesting because I mentioned before going to Malaysia for Super GT. When I was there, one of the things that they had was a Summer Nats display at the Sepang circuit because they were running Summer Nats Malaysia in a few weeks after that, and I don't know. I don't think it must have gone all that well because I haven't heard anything about it since. But they were certainly, plugging that big time over there. So they're sort of expanding it. But I didn't know Cletus was involved in it as well. So it'd be interesting to see how that goes. I did see an interview with Andy and the other guy who's involved in that as well, just talking about sort of what they were doing and how it was going to be different to anything that the Yanks had seen before, and it'd be interesting to see how that took off because they've certainly turned that into something.
Oh, the Cletus name! You just don't hear it in Australia too often. Every time you hear Cletus, it's usually the Beverly Hillbillies that brings back memories.
That's it. Yeah, sort of as Jared's saying, need to race smarter in finals. So I think that's it. It's like you've got to make it. You've got to be there for the main game. It's like it is now like the footy. It's like it's all right. It's like Adelaide.
Get a wild card.
Well, I could done so. Yeah, well, let's talk about fake. But I think that's I think that's the thing that
footy's not his gig at the moment. Tell him when the Pies are winning.
No, it's just I don't like the wild cards.
I know.
A final eight was too many.
Pendle's got off tonight though.
Did he? Well, I would hope so after 400.
Celebrations. Get the champagne out.
I was just looking around to see if there was any of my merch to remind you all where the Premiership Cup lives at the moment.
No, I don't think we've heard it. I think we've heard it over and over again. Okay, so Mad Cow saying not much of not much of a crowd. That's a shame. That is a shame if that was.
Wait till Lockie Tax kicks in.
But anyway, let's now, Doc. Let's talk about before we move on to anything else. You did go to a racetrack on the weekend, unlike the rest of us who watch stuff from home and all the rest of it. You actually went down on.
You got the real deal. You just didn't get the fumes and the dust and the dirt and the sunburn and all the stuff.
So you went down on Sunday. Now it looked, and everybody's saying it was good. It certainly looked on both Saturday. Actually, Saturday looked even a little bigger, but on both days it looked like a really good crowd.
Well, I did forward you some emails with a bit of colour, and some of it was over on the shed side. I've got some fun facts for everyone just at the end of this. I'll try and summarise it. Crowd was really good. Plenty of show. I'll just do the outside stuff first. The clubs were fantastic. The support from all the organisations that the MG Car Club, shout out to them that they slog it out every weekend there in their high vises and in spots that they'll see a car whiz by every few seconds and they don't even know what it is. So good on those, and all to the car clubs that support throughout Victoria and interstate as usual. A lot of New South Wales cars came down and hung out for the weekend by the looks and did some displays. I had a bit of a wander over just to break up the day a little bit and have a chat to people, and it just seems everywhere I walked along and I'd stand there looking at a car for a few seconds and you get approached from someone from the car club wanting to know, oh, what do you would you like to buy one? And or what takes your interest in that? I was even looking at an old Ford Capri Club Sport because I almost bought one, almost won one when I was a teenager, and I won't go into too much details about that. But yeah, I did send an email with Brett. I did find it a little bit of not a concern, but there was a lot of race cars for sale down there. So either people have got sick of what they've got, they either want to upgrade, or they're going to move on from doing what they are doing.
Well, I think for a lot of those cars, and I mean, I knew a lot of them that, because a lot of them have been for sale for a long time. And in most cases, at least in that case, it's basically, it's for the reason, it's basically the reason that I know so well. And that is, they're just getting too damn old to keep doing it. So they're
the
looking.
biggest worry was, though, Brett, was you walk straight from the cafe across the little pedestrian crossing there, and the first two cars you see when you walk in is both of them for sale. One with the piece of cardboard on it, which didn't look too good anyway. But keep going.
Yeah, so I think that is obviously a problem, like that historic, and this is one of the problems historic racing has, is the fact that they haven't moved along with the times. They haven't. I mean, we saw that probably the biggest fields and the fields that everybody was more interested in were the old supercars, the old Group C cars, the old Group A cars, and all the rest. They were the cars because they're the cars that sort of like a younger generation look at, and it's like, oh yes, but they're not, the supercars. They're not, they're like invited. And they can do super sprints, but they're not an historic car. I mean, because it's like, as we said before, how old does a car have to be? And I know lots of cars that are just sitting in garages at the moment with the guys who are now my age and older, who have been hanging on to cars for 10, 15, 20 more years, saying, oh, I'll wait till it's eligible for historics and then I'll go racing again with historics. And they've waited 20 years and the car's still not eligible for historics. And if you talk to some of the historics people, it doesn't matter if it gets to 60 years old. They are never, as one of them said to me, as long as I'm alive, those things will never be part of historic racing. They're not historic race cars.
On that note, speaking of the historic race cars, lots of good racing out there. As you said, Brett, there was some very heavily supported fields. It looked a little bit lean a couple of weeks ago when you said it was a bit light on. However, the pace picked up. They must have filled the card quite well. Respectful racing outside. Good to see. Not too many turnarounds, not too much. A lot of fun, a lot of things, a lot of cars we've seen before, most we've seen before, which it was. A couple of breakdowns before anyone got near the track. You know of one, Brett, I know of one, and I got dragged into a garage and got shown some stuff that happened down the road in Dandenong from Brett and I one afternoon, but we'll go into that a bit later. George had the one to go north, and we can tell that story another night when we're a bit more light on. But no, fantastic. A quick shout out, of course, too. Let me see. There was Roger was there. Mick was there. I ended up in the cafe with them for the first 5 minutes, like we normally do, Brett. Phil was there. Christian was there, but I missed him. I rung him. He rung me. I rung him. Somehow we didn't actually catch up all day. So he was there, and all the shout-outs to the Towies and Trevs and Dino that spotted me and come up.
I think that's the thing about...
It's a really social event, isn't it?
Yeah, that's it. It really is, because that's what, like, when I said I wasn't coming down, there were people saying, oh, but, we normally catch... people like Bowie and a few others said, we sort of miss you, we all catch up at this stage. I was like Bruce Moxon, the photographer from New South Wales.
Christian was going to go dinner with him, yep.
Yeah, so I mean, there were a whole bunch of people, and that is the thing about it. It is very much a social thing, and that's probably one of the reasons I didn't come down, is the fact that there was, as you say, I looked at the entry list, and unlike the past, because it has changed, and this is one of the problems that they're continuing to have, and that they've had after COVID, is if you have a look back around sort of 2016, up to about 2018, 19. the Phillip Island Historic, there would be like a list of, here are the cars that are coming from overseas. Here are the Formula One
half
cars.
a dozen big
Can-Am.
names, wasn't there, Brett?
Yeah, big names, big drivers. We had, ex-Le Mans cars. We even had super saloons like the Big Bertha Volks.
There'd be about half a dozen be about half a dozen, wouldn't there? Yeah.
Yeah, they were there every year, and now those cars, if they're coming, are going to Adelaide and doing sort of exhibition laps and putting them on and then shipping them back, because they don't want to race them, or if they do, they're racing them in Europe, which was the other problem that they have because of the time factor. Now, the interesting thing and the challenge for the VHRR is going to be there is a group of people down there in terms of the Grand Prix going away. There's currently a group of people down there who are saying we need something to replace the MotoGP and the World Superbikes, because they will go after next year as well. We need something to replace that. And what they're saying is, let's have a festival of historic motorsport. And it's like, oh, hang on, you've already got one of them. They went, no, a proper festival of historic motorsport, an international festival of historic motorsport, a festival of historic motorsport that does not include the VHRR. Because if you've spoken to Andrew Fox at any stage, you would know his frustrations of trying to merge. If you remember, they used to have the historic bikes down there over the Australia Day long weekend when they had it, or the end of January, last weekend of January, they had the historic bike meeting, which was hugely successful. Unfortunately, it disappeared. I don't know why, because they used to get huge crowds. Great meeting. But what he said, we want to merge the bikes and the cars and have like a Goodwood revival major of it. And the VHRR said, no, we're not changing our date. We're not allowing motorcycles in. We run we book the track and we will run it the way we want to run it. Now some of those people involved are saying we might just run our own thing and it'll be at another time of the year. Now the point is, if they make it earlier, because this was always the argument when I've been overseas and seen like historic racing at Spa, at Montlhéry and Dijon and Goodwood, and you talk to a lot of people who want to come to, they just say, if we could come over Christmas, have a couple of races in New Zealand and a couple of races in Australia, and then have our cars on the ship and back in Europe sometime mid-March, that works out perfectly for us. March for the Phillip Island Historic is just too late for them, because they say we'll end up, as one guy said, he came out for the Grand Prix, came out for Phillip Island Historic, absolutely loved it, got it, but he said, I missed the first 2 rounds of the European Championship because my car got, basically damaged in transit. There were delays, couldn't get it out in time, and it was like, well, when they said, are you coming back next year? He went, I'd love to, but no, not again.
I've got one more thing to add to all that. Whoever's doing it, whether it's half the VHR or side, whoever it is, or the new conglomerate, whatever like that, is budget. So another factor that I wanted to tack on a minute ago, but I'll do it at the end now, is that budget's another big concern, of course, as well, though, too. So maybe the prices might be negotiable depending on what sort of festival, calling it international, call it Australian, call it whatever they want to do. But you might know, Brett, and it wasn't probably in the frame of to the naked eye. So the big exhibition shed opposite the pits on the other side of the track is usually you'd say 90% full of cars, where people, if they don't have a whole lot of exhibitors and a whole lot of car clubs that are in there, they'll usually fill it up and tack a few things on the end and put a few people's cars on. So that's the first year I can remember for a long time that shed hasn't not been used. It was locked up, shut, not being used, not accessible.
Yeah.
So there was nothing in it. And I happened to mention it to someone, and it doesn't matter who, what, when, where, or how, but it's all down to cost. Don't quote me on this figure, but I was told told, and as I said, it's not worth. It's only probably a big fairy tale figure. A couple of years ago, to the cost of VHR, which they're probably spending on Blendline TV now anyway. The cost to open that shed for accessibility, for using it for whatever they want to, was $8,000. They didn't use it this year because I'm told the quote was, if they wanted that shed open for them to be for used, $25,000 onto the part of the budget.
That wouldn't surprise me, because this is going to be the problem for Phillip Island. This is why I think there's only one state round there this year, because it was always 2 rounds at Sandown, 2 rounds at Phillip Island, and in the old days 2 rounds at Winton and 2 rounds at Calder. This year there's 2 rounds at Sandown, 1 round at Calder, 1 round at Winton, and 1
just quickly
round
mention,
at
I forgot a little bit. The exhibition shed was not open, and the top level where Brett and I, even if it's only a little section, the media centre wasn't open, and none of the corporate nothing from the top level was open, any doors for hospitality, anything like that. So they've cut the shed out, and they've cut the second level of all the entertainment out.
My knowledge of motorcycles, pardon me, my knowledge of motorcycles is finite, but a couple of years ago, I was down at Phillip Island between Christmas and New Year, and I saw bikes that looked historic looking, bikes racing around Phillip Island between Christmas and New Year.
Yeah, it was really popular. I mean, the last time I went down, this is how long ago it was, because when the last time I went down there, did an interview with Barry Sheen, so that's how long ago it was since since I went down there. But it was a really good meeting, and everybody absolutely loved it. But yeah, this is part of the problem, because I can believe with the cost of the shed, it was the same years ago at I think it was the Shannon's round, where we walked into the media centre, and it's like, where's the timing? And then they said, it was an extra $7,000 if we wanted to use the monitors.
Yeah, so second level of pits underneath the standing room ones, not the pits itself, but all the corporate rooms were all closed, and the shed was closed. So. Yeah,
it's not. I think it's going to be increasingly hard to keep Phillip Island open, because essentially, unless they sell it. Unless, Lindsay decide, okay, well, we're not going to make money out of this anymore, we'll sell it, and they can sell it to a group of people, like a Tony Quinn or somebody like that, a group of people who want to have it as a racetrack and keep it as a racetrack, regardless of how much money it makes or doesn't make. But, they've always said, the the only interview that I've done with Andrew Fox, Lindsay's son, he was very clear. This is a money-making concern. We're not, we've spent the money on this, we bought the place, we brought it back up because there is a Grand Prix and a World Superbike race here. The other stuff is just bonus, but that's not where we make the money from. The Grand Prix and the World Superbikes is now gone. Where do they get that? They might look at it now and say, well, okay, we've got to come up with there's however much they were paying for those 2 international events. They've now got to turn around and say, okay, well, we've got to find that from somewhere else. Where are we going to get that? Okay, let's jack the hiring price up for the Victorian State Series, for the historics, for the state series for the bikes.
And I heard the argument for supercars not going there was because the Foxes charge too much to hire the circuit.
There's a lot more.
They can't get a crowd.
There's heaps more why supercars aren't there. Brett and I have been across it for a few years. There's half a dozen different reasons.
And they're the same reason that we've lost the Grand Prix. I mean, it is, it's an amazing circuit. It's a great circuit. It's one of the world's great circuits. But, I looked at, I thought, I've got to get down. I thought, I wonder if I can just find somewhere, just in a pub somewhere like at Wonthaggi or somewhere, just to crash overnight so I don't have to get up at a ridiculous hour of the morning to go down there. And it's like I could go down on the Saturday and da-da-da. The only place I found it anywhere near Phillip Island to stay was at a place at San Remo, an absolute flea bit of a place. And I know because I've stayed there, it was an absolute dump of a joint. And not on the island, it was actually at San Remo. And they wanted $240 for the night. Normally that room, during the week, if you go onto booking.com, and during the week, that room is about $75. But it's like, oh, it says, oh, so there's a car race on, bang. Let's charge $200, $300 and everything. The only other things that were available were $400 a night, $600. There was one place that was $1,800. That was admittedly a house, like on Airbnb, but it was $1,800 a night.
Cool. All right. I've got a very early start at the moment. It's weird.
Okay, yeah, that's it. So thanks everybody. We'll see you this. Well, what is coming up this?
SRO at Phillip Island, isn't it?
SRO, Phillip Island.
Oh, okay. So what is
colder this week? SRO the week after.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Yeah, colder this week. SRO the week after. Good field for the GT4s. Fabulous full capacity field for GT4s for SRO. I don't know whether I'm going to get down. Would like to get down there. Might go. There's a long story with that.
Speaking to a lot of the marshals and flaggies and volunteers on the weekend, they're going to skip Calder this weekend so they can do Phillip Island the weekend after.
Well, a lot of people seem to be skipping Calder on the weekend, but Calder is on the Calder is on the weekend. Well, that's part of the problem for this year. They've had, Grand Prix, Phillip Island, so you've got to take a break at some stage.
Well, Phillip Island before the Grand Prix, then Grand Prix, and I've done the whole three. So now
there's other things which as Paul said. Oh yes, Avalon Speedway.
Brett, are you going?
No. Avalon Speedway. I would probably be more likely to go to Avalon Speedway. But now remember, if you're going down there, it's an early start because they've got so much on there, and they want to. And this is finally somebody's listened to this. They're starting earlier so they can finish earlier. And I've said this with the drags out at Calder and with other speedway stuff and all that. They can't nowadays. You can't go through until 11 o'clock, 11:30 at night. People just don't put up with it anymore. Even at the drags on the off-street drags, and we had a huge turnout. Thank you to everybody who turned out to the street drags, the off-street drags at Calder Park on Friday night. I looked at it because they didn't have the roll racing, and I looked at the start and I went, oh, this is not looking good. Went up to the commentary, and then slowly but surely they just kept coming in, and then the people started, and it got.
And then he calls it a night. Oh, I think everyone got the idea. So Calder was a fantastic night on Friday night. Have a look at Brett's Facebook, the In Pit Lane Facebook page, and we can catch up. So we'll call a night anyway. We've gone well over time, and Brett's probably still listening in the background sometimes, hoping to connect up like he does. Thank you, Mr. Peter. Thank you, Mr. Jones. Thank you very much. Everyone who listens and watched and like that sort of stuff. Oh, he's blacked us out. He's really pulled the pin now. Thanks for listening to Full Course Yellow tonight and putting up with us. Enjoy the weekend, whatever you do, you're racing, and have a great one. Take care. See yous. Catch you guys. See you, Pete. See you, Jonesy.
See you.
Have a good night. Enjoy your racing.
And
Okay, I'm not sure that I'm back.
You're back.
we can hear you.